Welcome back to Watercolors with Wendy. Today, I took last week off. I am so sorry, but I needed a break. And so you did not get a crochet video last week. I do apologize. Um, I will have crochet back up next week, but we have two watercolor paintings planned for this week. Now, Thanksgiving is in the middle of all this. So if I can't do it, I'm sorry. There was Thanksgiving. so Um, so there's this super cute deer that we're gonna do. It looks like when I was sketching, I forgot to put all the little uh, spots on his booty. I'm not sure why, because they are definitely in the outline, but you know how that goes. You start to work on something and then you forget what you're working on. So I'm just going to put them in here so that I don't forget to do them. And this outline is available at Drunken Aunt Wendy Designs under watercolor outlines. They're $1 for a PDF download of this outline so that you can paint along with me. And you should have it immediately because it is a PDF download. So today, at present, now, if you've painted with me before, you know that these things change. We've got moss rose, black, saddle brown, and this is the saddle brown. Bleed proof white, just in case we need it, and to add in any highlights and spots. I think it'll be easier. I'm making this little deer standing in the snow, but if you wanted to make this a spring, it could be standing in a bunch of uh, grass. It could be standing in a pile of leaves. Honestly, I just didn't want to paint the feet. So I'm making it stand in something so I don't have to see the feet. This is what you get to do when you're painting your own things. I'm really bad at feet, so I just don't paint them. I so moss rose, black, saddle brown, and I've got some turquoise blue. And the reason I have turquoise blue is to do the snow, because snow often has some blue in it. I Even if you might not know. And these are all Dr. P.H. Martin's liquid radiant watercolors. And then bleed proof white, which is my go-to all the time. I have a variety of round brushes, big, medium, and little. So we are just going to use whatever floats my boat today, I think, um, which I'm sure is the best way to do a paint along. Hi, we're going to paint, and I'm going to paint however I feel. Yeah, sorry. It's just kind of what I do sometimes. So I'm grabbing my medium brush. I've got sort of clean water. Oh, one thing I forgot. I do this. I have this Japanese watercolor in gold, which I might do as the irises of the eye. I like put a little bit of gold on the edges and then make them dark brown with a black center. I think that might be really pretty. I can't guarantee that's what's going to happen. It's just kind of floating around in my head that that might be what's going to happen. So I'm letting you know now. So let's just get started. I've got a medium brush and a little bit of water, and I'm tapping it on my paper towel, and I'm going to go straight for the moss rose. Now that's really, really dark. So I'm going to tone it down a little bit with just water. I'm going to just lighten it up. And then I also can do that on the paper. So we're just going to start to do the insides of these ears. Yes, it is a very, very vibrant pink. That's okay. This is not a realistic painting. It's all right if it's a little bit crazy. All right, so we're just going to lay down that color first. Rinse our brush, tap it on paper towel, and then just start pulling that out so it fades. We want it dark here at the bottom, but it can fade. And right now, we're just going to lay down color and hope for the best. All right, so let's get some more of this and do the other ear. I realize the ears are super dark. It's going to dry lighter than it's going down. We all know that. I and it who cares? Let's make it vibrant and make it crazy. It's what I like to do. I like to do vibrant and crazy. Okay, so this side is significantly lighter than the other side. So we're going to fix that with a paper towel because I do like the lighter side. I think I have a paper towel and we're just going to pull up color and lighten that up. See, works just great. That is my eraser method for watercolor painting. All right, I've lost some of the dark in here, so we're going to add a little bit more. And this would be really, really cute if you decided to put a Santa hat on it or wrap him up in Christmas lights. This would be a really cute Christmas card. I just want to make sure it's darker at the bottom. So I am making it darker at the bottom. He's going to have really bright ears, and it's okay. Mm. Honestly, he doesn't have to come in any color that's normally found in nature. You guys can go nuts. This little guy can be anything you want him to be. All right, so I'm going to use some saddle brown. And I'm just moving it so I can get some. Now, saddle brown is really fun because it has a lot of reds in it and everything else. So we're going to lighten this up. And if you don't have enough, you'll just make more. It's not a big deal. And we're going to just start putting in some color for our fawn. I guess this is a fawn because it's a baby. And then I rinsed my brush so I could really kind of lighten it up. Now you'll notice there's some pinks and greens. That's all within this color, and that's okay. It's kind of fun that this color does this. So we're just going to cover the whole thing with this. And then we'll add in some darker fur textures later. So I'm starting up on the ears because they are a little darker, and then I'm pulling the color down with just water. And the outline is really, really dark on my paper. I did that so you guys could see what I was doing. Your outline does not need to be this dark. Take it up in. I'm leaving the area next to the pink alone. Okay, so then he's going to have a little bit darker here and here, and here and here. And then let's work on the body. And right now, it really is just getting a wash down to get the color. And this is kind of furry, kind of not. So we're adding a little bit of fur texture right there because I don't want it to be a super harsh line. I'm just adding more in because I ran out. Not a big deal. Now I did the tail with some quick strokes up to just kind of give it that movement. And now I'm going to just kind of come in. If you leave a little bit of white, it's okay. Even through here, leave a little bit of white. Probably should have, but I forgot. That's why we have bleed proof white, because I forget to do these things. Just pull this down. So he's going to have a lot of colors in him, and that's why I like this brown, because as you can see, as it's basically drying, there's some more reds in here and a little bit more pinks. So I'm not making a very harsh line at the edge of the foot. It's okay. We don't need to worry. It's covered in snow. And I'm also getting out of my lines a little bit. That again, it's not that big of a deal. I can just make that look fuzzier when I come back in. Okay, so I'm doing this other leg. And again, not being too particular about the edge down there. Okay, so we have this weird little shape back here. That is a back leg, and it's hard to see. If you don't have it there, he'll look funny. But if you do it too detailed, he'll also look funny. So you just want a light color because it's in the background. So it's not going to be as detailed as the stuff in the front. It could be darker too. You could make it a nice shadow, but I think I'm going to go with light. All right. So we have the basics done. Now, the white part that's been left white so far isn't actually white. So we're going to get some more water and do the belly, and I'm lightening it up even more. Our belly and chest. Call this the belly and the chest. Okay. See how that just kind of uh, ties it all together. It's all done in the same color, but we're lightening it up and it's giving us a lot of dimension, which is super fun. Okay, so then we're going to do the same thing around in this little face area. I know it's scary. Don't worry, you'll be okay. You still have your lines. I would say try to keep it out of the eyes. And I'm rinsing and we're lightening up a little. I'm pulling it over this nose area. There we go. Up over this eye. Now I've got this big bloom right here. We're not going to worry about that. So we'll cover it up with some fur and it'll look fine. At least that's what I'm telling myself, right? And if your brown isn't getting as pink or as light as you want, use more water, put a tiny touch of the moss rose in. That will help lighten it up. Okay, and I left the nose alone and I left the eyes alone. We have these weird little lines in here. Those are going to be shadows, so don't worry about it. Do my very scientific way of testing to see if the paint is dry before we move on. Actually, I'm going to use a smaller brush. So I'm getting a smaller round brush, and I'm getting some of the dark on my paintbrush, and then I'm just kind of making lines with it to see how it's feeling. I don't know why that makes me happy, but it does. And we're going to do some little dark tips in these ears and make it fuzzy. And it's okay if it fuzzes down into there. There we go. Now let's get the other ear. And once again, I paint on the right side and then on the left, so I end up sticking my hand in it. I don't know why. I have never seemed to learn to not do it that way. Okay, so they have the little dark ears, some little lines that come down. And those seem a little dark, but I think we'll get away with it. Okay, so now I am, once again, I really am using a lot of saddle brown for this project, but just different intensities of it. And I'm going to outline the inside of this ear. I'm going to get more water that's not as light as I want. And we're layering it, so it's no big deal. It'll layer over. And we're going to do the outside of the ear, pulling it down. Okay, and then you're going to get some more of the dark and do light little flicks up in there to get the hair inside the ear. And once again, I did it backwards. You really, if you want to work from left to right because you are right-handed, feel free. I don't know why I insist on not doing that. Excuse me. And we're doing the other ear the same way. And then we're going to get some straight up dark. Uh, and flicks of hairs. So those ears are pretty much done. We might add some more little like hairs right here inside and some little hairs here inside. I'm going to tie all that together. But we got some ears. Sweet. Okay. I know. Painting with me has got to be so obnoxious. I'm so sorry. Anyway, let's move on and do let's do some of the hairs over the nose since I just have the smaller uh, brush in my hand and this is what's making sense to me. So if you followed my outline, there's little kind of tufts of hair. So I'm just going to kind of layer these in with down strokes, pushing down so it's thin at the top and then it gets a little thicker at the bottom. And I just want these fuzzy. I kind of really want this line right here. So I'm going to just make sure it's there. And you don't have to cover everything. If you leave stuff from behind it, it looks cooler because it will give you the impression of lights behind. All right, so we're using the big brush again, or the medium-sized brush, and I'm watering down the brown just a little bit. And we're going to start doing some head hairs. Again, you got to try to change the shapes of these. Don't do them all exactly the same, or it'll look too robotic. And then the ears are kind of behind the head, so we want to just kind of do little around. Well, you can pull them in a little. That ear lightened up too much on me, so I'm darkening it. And then we'll probably come back in on this side and give more hairs. You don't have to outline each and every hair. I mean, everybody knows little baby deer are fuzzy, so we don't have to super worry about that, but we want not a straight edge on the sides, if that makes any sense. That gives you more fuzziness. Fuzzy is the word of the day, apparently, and I am just going to say fuzzy a lot. And then I had some little fuzzy over here. Now I'm just softening these lines in here. Then I'm going to take some of this brown that's still kind of toned down, and I'm doing the top of the nose and like right around the eyes. And then that's where this one like bleeds down into the cheek a little bit. And this one, he's got a little bit under the eye too. Darkening around that nose just a little bit. So they are lighter, but they're not completely white. And cream is a hard color to paint, so we're not painting cream. So this has dried. You can come back in and kind of just take a wet brush and just soften this out a little bit. And then same with here. We're just going to soften that a little bit. Just with a wet brush. You'll lose some of the definition, but not all of it, which is okay. I realize he looks really crazy right now. Animals look really weird until you put their eyes in. Just trust the process. Just trust the process. Okay. So he needs to have fuzzy around his neck. And this part needs to be a little bit darker because it's in shadow. So I'm just using really light flicks. And if I cover up the white spots, it's fine. I can add those back in. And he'll look a lot better when we add those in too. I promise. This is a trust the process. All right, so let's add some little dark chunks in the tail. Okay. And then his hairs are going to come down this way. And if you notice when I did the outline, kind of like left the knees. So the knees are going to be a little bit lighter. So we're just throwing this in. And then we have a little bit more on the other side of the knees. Just the way the hair is going to lay and flick. And I'm not going too far down so that I can add the snow and I don't have to worry about bleeding in, and then I can take hair over top of the snow. Okay, again, we're going to have a little bit of a shadow right here. So he'll be a little bit darker. And I also did the knees, hair above and below. I am lightening, getting my brush wet, and I'm just pulling these together. Same over here. Okay. And don't worry about that back leg. We're just going to kind of ignore it from now on. So we have a little bit of a darker edge here, and then you have your belly, and then a darker edge here. And then this is going to come in like that and give it fuzzy knees. That's where the knees are there. I know it's not called a knee, I, but we're going to call it a knee because it's easier for us to use those terms. So that's what we're doing. Okay, and then we just put in some fuzzies. And fuzzies. And this has all pretty much been with the same color. We're just using it in different strengths, which is really giving us a really interesting take and a different look. And you notice when I got down in there, I just kept painting to kind of get rid of some of those brush strokes. And that's cool. That just evens it out. The shadow's still there, but we don't have real harsh lines anymore. So he's also going to have a little bit of a shadow right here, and then it's going to fade. So we'll just fade out the hairs. Still a little under here, flip the hairs down. Doo-doo-doo. That kind of, this line is really just a guideline. So if your hairs go in over it, it's okay. Okay, so that looks weird. We're going to get a wet brush and just kind of smooth all that out. So it's there, but it's not too crazy. I'm just adding some hair down in here. And then right here where the head came around, I had redone the ear. So we need to add in the little edges of the head. I know he looks really crazy right now. He'll get there. I promise. At least I hope so. Okay, so let's switch. Actually, I want a little bit of fuzzy on this ear. I keep telling you I'm going to switch and I stop. Um, he needs to have just a little bit of fuzzies coming off this ear. He is a baby deer after all. He needs some fuzzies. Okay, let that sit for a couple seconds and then come in with some water and pull it down. Too much white showing there, so I'm getting rid of that. And then I'm kind of cleaning up this line where it does get lighter. And we do have bleed-proof white, so we can go back in and add a little bit more bleed-proof white if we need to. But what I'm going to do is switch back to my smaller brush. Um, this is a small brush. I do have a teeny tiny brush that I may be using for some of the details. But for now, this is the brush I'm going to use. And let's go ahead and get the nose because we are dry around the nose. So if you're dry around the nose, you can paint the nose. If you're not dry around the nose, don't do this. Okay, so I've got black. I got straight up black. And I'm doing the top of the nose. These two little white dot or two little circles, those are highlights. I'm just going to do this. Try to get a clean line. There we go. I'm going to rinse the brush, paper towel it, and now I always get a bubble right here on my metal piece, the frenule maybe. Um, so a lot of times I have to stop what I'm doing to get that pulled off on the paper towel so I don't drip a giant water bubble on. So I put the black on the top and then I dried the brush, rinsed and dried the brush so I could pull it down and get a little bit of dimension. Because he's got two little tiny nostrils. So what I'm going to try to do is as soon as that dries, I'll go back in and I'll make those nice and dark. But we're a little darker up here on the top and then we've pulled it down to lighten it up. Okay, so let's go ahead and while we're here, very, very lightly, like probably feather light, you want to pull out a little bit. And I'm not going all the way around. That's going to be added in with some shadows, etc. But we don't want to do that just yet. Okay. So now he has a little mouth, which is perfect. He's going to have a shadow across, and I don't have a lot of black on my brush because I was doing that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and add this shadow. I know it looks really, really dark. Just trust me. Okay. I just put that on. I'm getting the bigger brush. I'm getting it wet, cleaning it. I know I don't normally do that. And we're going to pull this and just make it a shadow across the front. Just a light shadow. That's where the head would be, the light would be uh, blocking it. So we're just adding it in with black. And I know black is scary. So you have to be really, really delicate with that and not put it on too dark. And if you think you put it on too dark, get your brush wet and pull up some of it. And then I'm adding in more shadows because I get obsessed with shadows sometimes. Once I do this, I can't stop. Okay, we will stop. Back to the teeny tiny brush, wherever I may have put it. Think. Okay, yeah, this is the one I was using. I had to put it on my hand and see if it was wet, because I couldn't remember which brush I was using. Okay, so we're gonna give this fawn really dark eyes, but let's make them dark brown and then put in the black to outline them and give them a pupil. And then we'll come back in maybe with the gold. So because it's a baby, so it's going to have really big eyes. And I'm leaving the pupil open, so I remember to put it in. If you paint over it, don't worry about it. And there's the highlight. I accidentally started to paint over it. Again, no big deal. And you see if I just got a little bit on as I pull it, it gives us some dimension to that eye. And they just have such big, pretty eyes. And again, I did the wrong side first. Okay, so let's do this one. And again, it's just the brown and the little brush. I'm leaving this outside edge and then basically I call it the eyeliner. So I will be coming back through with black on that. But we don't want to do that while this is wet. Leaving my highlight and my pupil. And they've got these nice, pretty, dark brown eyes. Okay. And that helps it look a little less crazy. A lot of times once you put the eyes in, you start to feel like it looks normal again. So I'm just touching up here. I think we lost some of the lines. We're just putting some more back in. Maybe even taking them up a little higher. Not adding any more paint, just using what was already on my brush. This side's pretty good. Okay, while we let those eyes dry, let's put in the snow. You're going to want to clean your medium-sized brush. And I know you can't see it, but I got a whole lot of blue on my palette, but I don't need that much. So I'm going to move this to the side real quick. And this is the blue. Okay. And then we are going to keep lightening it. And more water. So what I like with these palettes is I just pull it to one spot and see if I can keep getting it lighter and lighter so it's not running into the other stuff. There we go. Remember, it will dry lighter than what you put it on. But that is a really light blue or light color. It looks like it's gotten some dark in it to it because my water wasn't super clean. Totally cool. Not a big deal. Okay, so let's put in some snow. So I kind of made it like two little snow hills. I'm going to put this one in first. If you can see that, it's a super light color. I am just around the feet. And I'm following that line out. I did it on that side too. And now I'm going to get just clean water. Well, I'm going to dip it in the water I have. I'm not going to worry about whether it's clean or not. And then I'm going to pull this down. And this just gives me the illusion of something that it's standing in. And we may darken it up just a little right where the feet go in. And we're darkening it up a little right where the feet go in. Back foot back in there. There would be a shadow. Yeah, whites are tricky because they're very rarely just completely white. Okay, so now there's also another kind of hill behind it. So I'm going to make that just a touch darker by adding a little bit more of the blue. And I'm going to pretend to grab some black and put that in there. Like I'm using where I like spread my black out and then adding just a little bit at a time to get a little bit of a darker color. All right, and now we're going to do this second hill. So you see, it had to be just a little bit darker than the first one. And then I'm actually even leaving a little bit of a line between the first and second hill. And then off to the side, we're just letting it go. So we want to make sure we get back in here because I forgot to put it in the outline the first time. And then this side. And then, okay, so it decided to bleed out some of that brown. It's okay. When we hit to details or like some finishing touches, we will just add some fuzz right there. I think it'll be okay. Okay, so now we just have, and like the brush dried a little, so you're getting some skip lines. That's perfect. There we go. He is standing in some snow. Yay, snow. All right, we're going to do my very scientific test. This side's dry, this side's not. So we're going to start with this eye, which is where I should be starting anyway. We're going to come in with gold. And if you have trouble activating your pan paints, you can spritz them with some water. I have these little water bottles that I got from the dollar store. I'm doing it off to the side so I don't end up spritzing all over the painting that I just did. And then it'll activate just a little quicker in case you are as impatient as I am. Okay, so we are going to just very lightly outline the edge of these eyes in gold. And I'm leaving this little spot here. We will do like eyeliner around it, but we are going to leave that. Okay, and then we're going to do the other eye. It's going to be just a little bit thicker. And this might not show up as well on the camera as it will in person, but this gold shiny uh, watercolor is super pretty. I messed up and got some up there, so I am just retouching it. Okay. So I think our nose looks really good. I do. This shadow is here. I know it looks weird. I trust me on this. We'll get it. Now let's get some black. And you want to do your pupil. You want to do the left one first if you are right-handed. Okay, those are there. It looks good. I We're gonna go ahead and start the lining of these eyes very carefully, very light. And I'm doing them in not single strokes because that's not my strong suit. Down here, I'm pushing down a little bit. Get it? There we go. Make the line a little thicker. And because the paint had kind of dissipated on my brush a bit, that I made it lighter over there. Now this line is not as straight as I'd like it to be. We're fixing that. I'm getting a little bit more black. And we're going to continue around this other eye. And then bring it in here. Hey, it got really dark on this side and it's not dark on this side, so we have to go back just to even them out a little bit. And then we need to give them eyelashes. Okay. That's looking really good to me. I think we need to add in some details. I'm also going to do my secret trick, which is take a cell phone and take a look at it through the camera because it looks way better through the camera than when I'm like right up on it. So I needed to just check and see how things were looking. So these are a little too abrupt, so let's tone those down a little bit just by using a wet brush. When I say wet, I mean just kind of damp. It doesn't need to be super wet. We want this shadows in here. Yep, we're looking good. So I'm going to do some finishing touches and we'll add the white and touch up anywhere that we feel needs a little bit more, okay? So I'm getting a little bit more brown and I am adding the more dark over this nose again because we lost it, but that's okay. And then we're going to take it up. And then it kind of comes down here and that's okay. We're just adding in some color. And we still have the bleed proof white, so we will probably be adding that in a minute too. Just kind of want to give it like these little fuzzy cheeks. Be careful in here. You just painted it with black. If you touch it, that black's going to run everywhere. Okay. Yeah, he needed some darkness over this nose, and we're just going to fan it up so it doesn't look so harsh. Yeah, I think that helps. And he's got his fuzzy cheeks, but let's fuzzy him up a little bit more. Fuzzy, fuzzy. Fuzzy, fuzzy. See, right here, I got too eager and my paintbrush touched something wet. We are going to touch that up with the paper towel. There we go. I sometimes you do it. All right. I let's add a couple more darker spots. Still want this to be darker. There are a lot of blooms, and the blooms are fun. I like the blooms. But I think I want my ears just a little darker than the rest of his little fuzzy head and his fuzzy cheeks. Okay, and then we're going to do a little bit here on the booty. I know, I completely went out of the outline there. Sometimes I get over eager. And so now I am just adding a few hairs that are thin, maybe, if they want to be thin. And maybe like over into the snow a little bit. Hey, stop. All right, now we have the bleed-proof white. And normally you would get clean water, but I have a water bottle. So off to the side, I am going to spray some water into there. That's perfect. That works perfectly well. I don't know why I've never thought of that before. Okay, now I have the little brush and the bleed-proof white. So first we're going to put in his spots. I say he, it could be a she. And I think that'll help break it up a little bit. You don't want to be too precious with these either because the edges won't be super smooth. Or they shouldn't be super smooth because it's still fur. And I haven't gotten any more, so that'll give us a variation of color. Okay, that really helps. He needs a couple spots right here. That's just what I decided. Okay, and then we're going to put in his little spots on his back. I'm going to do the parts that aren't in shadow first, so they'll be darker when I get to the shadow parts. Okay, and again, he needs some little ones. All right. And now I'm going to use the bleed proof white to add little chest hairs. To just break this up a little. So we had laid down that color, so all I am doing is just kind of skimming this white over top of it and then adding like the little hairs that might go with it to lighten that up a little and give her some dimension. So I'm dipping my brush in some water just to make sure I'm getting enough water. And then I'm going in for some more bleed proof white. Yes, I know some people think this is cheating. I don't. So I don't want to hear it. I'm going to give him a little, oops, that's a little too dark, but that's okay. Underneath the mouth. And got a little bit of a chinny thing going on. So I went for it and now I have to commit because it didn't go on as light as I wanted it to. So I just have to commit and just add it. It's still not straight white, but it gives him like a little, like a white beard, which is adorable. I don't know if it's realistic, but it's adorable, so it doesn't matter. And we're going to kind of do the same thing up in here. We're just adding a little bit to brighten this color up. Especially over here where I kind of went overboard. Okay, so bleed proof white is kind of like a gouache. So if you get it wet, you can move it around like watercolor, which is what I am doing now. I'm being very careful not to touch these eyelashes that I should not have put in yet, but I got impatient. So that happens. Just be careful. And since we did it on this side, we need to do it on this side. And since I did the wrong side first, we're going to turn the page a little and just kind of coating that in and then adding some the white that goes back over. And water, just clean water or as clean as you have to tone that down. And that really brightens up our faces a little bit. So I do like this. And I'm going to put it right down here under and pull it in under the eye. And this one, he doesn't have as much white under the eye. This side doesn't, but there's a little bit of a highlight there. So we'll add that and then tone it down. So this is also a fur texture, so you can pull it in as fur. If you can continue to keep little lines. I'm having issues. There we go. And I left the highlights. I didn't paint them. I'm going to come back in and just throw a little bit of bleed proof white on them. If you think they're too dark, you can come in and swoop them out, but I kind of like them the way they are. One last thing, I'm going to brighten up. My spots seem to have like little circles in the center, so I don't like that. I'm going to make sure I get rid of the weird little circles in the centers of my spots. I think it's because of the way I applied the paint. I did it in a circle and then I left the centers unpainted. That seems like something I would do. Okay, so take one last look at him, see if he needs anything else. Remember to edit yourself. You might want to set it aside and then look at it in a day or two, because if you look at it right now, you may think you have to do all of the stuff to it, and you don't. But I do remember that we were going to give him little nostrils and we didn't. So I've got straight black and I am just putting this in right there, just like that, just a teeny tiny bit. And now I am not going to touch. You decide what you want. White spatter paint to make this look like snow could be really fun. You can get your big brush and your bleed proof white, and you can put little spots in the snow. That's going to be more for you. I don't know how much that's going to show up, but it is kind of fun. I'm going to do a little edge between the two snow piles. Oh, and I told you we'd have that problem down there. Well, we'll just fix it with bleed proof white. Ha ha! And then if your bleed proof white is really wet, and we're going to see, this could be a terrible idea, but we're going to go for it. Get it nice and wet and spatter so it kind of looks like it's snowing. This may not show, but it's cute. So we're going to leave it. I mean, I kind of did it, so I kind of have to. You just kind of spatter that on, and it looks like he's kind of in a snowstorm. So this would be a really cute Christmas card or holiday card. You could definitely have fun with it. I say put a Santa hat on him, wrap him up in some Christmas lights, go crazy with him. You've got the outline. There's so many things you can do with this. But I hope you had a good time painting. And if Thanksgiving doesn't cause too many problems, Friday we will have a hedgehog. And I'm very excited about the hedgehog. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll paint with you next time. Bye.